Hello and welcome to another devlog of Space Corp, this space top-down game I'm building in Unity. This week I started working on scene transitions and got the basis of growing crops. So yeah, let's get into it. One thing that I worked on this week is scene transitions. So when I go stand on this orange tile, it's gonna fade out the screen and load up another scene and then fade back in. And I'll show that here. So that fade is basically just like a UI element that I'm adjusting the alpha on the color. When the scene does make a transition, this core scene always sticks around, which contains like the camera and the main character and UI canvas. But this secondary scene here is what gets unloaded and loaded as you transition. So if I step on this tile here, the test scene got unloaded and this base scene gets loaded back in with the rocket lander and such. Also, I have the screen transition hooked up to the door as well. Basically how these ground transitions work is there's an empty box collider that has this trigger flag set that'll execute some code whenever the player comes into contact with it. And then I just have a little script here that you can set what scene you want that transition to go to and where the starting position of the player should be. I also have this little check to see what direction your character is facing. So this transition will only trigger if you're moving right for an example. But right now I just have it set to any. For the next part, I kind of wanted to start building out the farming system for the game. So the first thing I thought of is I'm gonna need a way to distinguish like what types of tiles are gonna be farmable. So I came up with this attribute system for tile maps. And basically they're these scriptable objects where I can add a list to a specific attribute. So I added these purple tiles as being farmable. I also made a group for unwalkable tiles and water tiles, which I haven't created yet. But basically this is a system that's gonna allow me to check whether a tile can be tilled or not. The next thing I worked on was trying to get like just a basic crop growing. So I created this little sprite for a potato plant that's gonna grow. I haven't built the mechanism for actually like tilling and planting yet, but I just placed it on the screen. I created this little crop script to go along with it. And basically you drag in the list of sprites as it grows. And then you set the amount of days that it's going to take to grow. It's subscribed to time events in the game time system. So every time a new day ticks, it'll add to the age of this plant, and then it'll pick a new sprite to display. So I sped the game time way up, so this is easier to see. But as the days go on, it'll progress to its fully grown sprite. One problem with this I found though is if I actually like leave the scene and come back, it doesn't retain its age and it starts growing again from the seed. How I ended up solving this problem is I'm keeping like a day counter on the global time class, and every time a day elapses, it's just an integer that gets incremented. And whenever a crop is planted, it records its starting day based on whatever day it was at the time. And then I'm keeping this singleton like global crop index of all the crops in the game. And if I transition between scenes, this sticks around because it's on the core scene that never gets removed. So basically, it records the day that it started, and if I leave scenes and come back now, I'll just let this grow for a bit. So if I leave scenes and come back, it's going to be in the same state that it was, or if time passed, it'll have grown. If you made it this far in the video, you are an absolute legend, and hopefully I'll see you next week on the next week's update.